I'm Sean Finnan from the Limerick Post, and the Limerick Post today I have Eva O'Connor, actor, starring in the honest arts production of Waiting for Poirot to be played in the People's Park this coming July 19th to August 1st. Thank you, Eva, for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
So what originally drew you to the show Waiting for Poirot, other than the money?
You have huge money involved in theatre. I've worked with Tara and Pius from Honest Arts before. We did a production called Waiting in Line a good 2 years ago that um was on in Limerick and Dublin and ended up going to Toronto. So
Hmm.
um and yeah, Pius and Tara have worked with my company over the years as well. So yeah, as soon as I heard about it, I was really excited to be involved and just I suppose they were really smart in that it's in the People's Park, so we always knew that it was going to be able to go ahead, like regardless of the COVID situation. And I think there's
Hmm.
kind of great comfort in knowing that it won't be cancelled last minute. Like I feel like a lot of performers over the last 18 months have just had so many stops and starts, or you rehearse a show and then it can't go on. Or I was doing a show in the Abbey um at the Dublin Fringe last September, and we got a run of like a week, but then the restrictions changed on like the Friday night, so our Saturday show was cancelled.
Hmm.
So I think just knowing that something can actually go ahead, and also using the outside and using a kind of I suppose a theatrical setting that you mightn't otherwise have thought of. I just yeah,
A dynamic environment.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned how has this been to be back rehearsing for like a live show with an audience that will be going ahead again?
Brilliant, really, really exciting. Like the first day was such a buzz. Like we were all just so overwhelmed by being in the room with so many people, and there's a great Limerick gang. Everyone is kind of from the area, so there's
Hmm.
like Johanna and Eleanor O'Brien are in it, and Miles Breen is in it and directing it, parts of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, it just feels like a real buzz to have that many people on board with something again. And just the size of the cast as well. Like I think, COVID or no COVID, it's quite difficult to get funding for like a big ensemble piece, and they can be really exciting. So yeah, just having a massive gang in the room was, yeah, it was a real good feeling on that first day of rehearsals.
Obviously, a bit being like outside and in in the People's Park is obviously a lot different from it being like on stage and with all the like controlled lighting. Like
Yeah.
how different is it to being in an outside space than being in an on stage?
It's a completely different ballgame, really. I mean, I think they've got a really amazing, experienced group of performers, and everyone has their own strengths. And lots of people have done like street theater before, or people will have experience doing like immersive or promenade theater. So I think it's kind of like a well-equipped bunch of people to be tackling it. But yeah, like you have to project much more, and I guess you have to be aware of like sight lines are different if people are going to be kind of standing all around you in the park. It's not like you say a controlled environment of everyone is just in their seat with one view. And then you've obviously got the weather to contend with, and like we've been contending with that in rehearsals as well. But yeah, I mean, I saw like a production in the Globe like a while ago, and like I was sitting right, and I had amazing seats right at the front, and it absolutely poured rain, but they just handed out ponchos, and it kind of like almost added to it. And I
Hmm.
feel like um especially having gone through pandemic, like audiences appreciate how much artists have been through and how people are going to all these lengths to put on shows. So I feel like the audience are going to be really on side. And overall I think it will actually add to it.
Hmm.
Especially when audiences are coming from Limerick and they'll be seeing the park in a whole different way. And it's really interesting to like use spaces that we wouldn't otherwise for theatre, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is that first. It's kind of like the end of a period going into a new one, where it is like all people coming together for like as a way to celebrate the end of the lockdown, with it being on July 19th. It is
I
sort of,
know it
yeah.
feels quite profound, doesn't it? I mean, I really hope it's the end of the last lockdown, but yeah, it feels special, right?
Yeah. And obviously, you've had a lot of different shows where you've been a one woman show or with an ensemble cast, and you mentioned how this is a very big cast. How How do you find going from being on your own one-woman show in Mustard, going from a large ensemble cast?
Yeah, I mean, they're completely different things, really. Rehearsals are almost so much more crack when you have a group of people. So that's the real advantage. And like, you have banter in the dressing rooms, and sometimes one person who can be quite intense. It's a huge responsibility, a lot of weight on your shoulders. And then when you're touring, you don't really have anyone with you apart from your stage manager or whatever. So yeah, I suppose it's just that feeling of being in a really big family. And also it's like a completely different muscle when the kind of parts are more equally weighted. You might kind of have less to do on paper, but you still have to be kind of ready at all times and figuring out ways to support the ensemble, even when you're not like necessarily kind of, in the limelight. So yeah, it's like a very different beast, but I think it's a real privilege to be part of the big cast.
And obviously works when you worked with other people in past before, when you worked with Pyrus and Joanna with the Galway Theatre Festival.
Exactly, yeah. It helps, I think, when you have an existing relationship with people.
So it's not.
And I think everyone actually in this show I don't think everyone knew everyone on the first day, but everyone had a link to everyone. And I think
on
the very first day that it was real, it was always going to be a good buzz.
And hopefully it's a good buzz for all the audience members that go to the bell table that goes into the People's Park. You also have your own shows going on, the Edinburgh Festival, Float and Mustard. Mustard is obviously it's from what I've seen, the very few of it, it's a very intense show. I don't think a lot of people would be would be surprised by how it goes ahead and how it ends.
Yeah, it's about a girl who's addicted to putting mustard all over her body. So I suppose it is on the surface kind of strange concept, but yeah, it's kind of about coping mechanisms and heartbreak and madness, and actually quite relatable things. I suppose it's just the mustard element that's slightly left field.
And where would you get those in those two plays?
So they're both on the virtual platform for the Edinburgh Fringe. They're both Afloat, which is about climate change, and Mustard, which is about heartbreak and madness, are both going to be on at Summerhall. So you can just like Google the Summerhall Edinburgh program, and then they'll both be available for the month of August. So sadly, unlike Waiting for Poirot, we're not going to have real audiences. But yeah, online is definitely better than nothing. And I think people are getting more and more used to different mediums of theatre, whether it's in a park or it's online or whatever. I think as a creative community, we've been very inventive and resourceful.
So heartbreak, sadness, climate change, and a murder mystery.
Yeah, exactly. What more could you want?
Thank you very much for coming on, Eva.
No problem.